Welcome to Audiobook da Morgan. Today's reading is Utz, chapters 42 and 43. But before we start, please subscribe on my channel and press the button to activate notifications.
Chapter 42 Utz by Bruce Chatwin. I uncovered evidence of Marta's unwavering feud with the tenant of the flat below. Ada Kruskova, in the course of a tumultuous affair with Utz, had used her opera singer's privileges to import a bale of pink satin from Italy, and had decorated his bedroom in the taste of a demi-mondaine. She then committed the solecism of installing herself on the floor below, and seriously believing she could outwit Marta, had pinched a bottle of Chanel No. 5. Marta countered this act of kleptomania with a bold statement: "I shall not be cooking for her." The lady was never invited again, and when I found her 30 years later, she was still stewing in rancorous recrimination among her souvenirs. I don't know the exact date, but sometime in the mid-60s, at a performance of Don Carlos, Utz trained his opera glasses on the throat of a singer far younger than his usual prey, a substantial girl with an outstanding tonal range who, as Queen of Spain, had to conceal a golden Hauser-like plate within the folds of a black mantilla. Next day, on his habitual visit to the Opera Café, Utz summoned up the courage to address her, and recoiled from a stinging reply: "Get away, you silly old fool." It was a lowering winter day. He had an attack of sinusitis and pink eye. He glanced into the mirror of a shop front and, in a moment of extreme disillusion, was forced to revise his image of himself as the eternal lover. What passed between him and Marta one can only guess, but from that day on she quit the camping mattress and moved into the bed. The pink art silk dressing gown was the emblem of her victory. His embittered tone as we parted in the old town square was perhaps conditioned by the fact that he and his wife had swapped roles. She was too tactful to make a public show, but was certainly the mistress of the household. Henceforth, if he wanted to go philandering, he would have to philander elsewhere. She then made the victory complete. She had been married at an atheist, not to say pagan, ceremony, and had always felt cheated of her rights. In her mumbled conversations with the infant of Prague, she confessed to having committed a cardinal sin, sleeping with a man to whom she was unmarried in the sight of God. One day in April, as she and Utz were spring cleaning some boxes stored on top of the wardrobe, she opened one containing the white lace veil that had been worn by brides of the Utzes since the 18th century. She laid it out on the pink satin coverlet. She looked at him pointedly. He returned her glance. Chapter 43 Utz by Bruce Chatwin. Utz and Marta were married in the Church of St. Nicholas on an incandescent afternoon of plum blossom and hazy blue skies in the Prague spring of 1968. She wore a white suit with minor sweat stains under the armpits and carried a bouquet of white lilacs and lilies of the valley. The veil pinned over her head did not look incongruous. A lock of grey hair fell aslant across her brow. To the wedding march from A Midsummer's Night's Dream, the priest, in ruffles and a wig, led the procession up the aisle. They passed the inevitable cleaning woman, who removed herself and her bucket into a pew and waved them on gaily with a mop handle. They passed the pulpit, which was the colour of raspberry ice cream, and arrived in front of the altar, where a mitred statue of St. Cyril was lancing a pagan with the butt of his crosier. The onlookers, their curiosity piqued by the disparate sizes of the bride and groom, were taken aback by the elderly couple who turned defiantly to face them, as well as by the smudge of vermilion lipstick that Marta, using lipstick for the first time, had planted on her husband's temple, being too tall to reach his lips at the moment of the bridal kiss. The organ poured forth Sigmund Romberg's When I'm Calling You, and as the pair came out into the sunlight, the crowd assembled on the steps broke into a round of hand-clapping. Another wedding party was waiting to go in. The young men wore sprigs of myrtle in their lapels. Marta's sharp eye registered that the girl was pregnant. She cringed at the applause, fearing perhaps that they were making fun of her. But the bridegroom, a friendly, fine-boned boy, bade the Utzes to join them inside for the service, and afterwards at the Hotel Bristol. A reception for one couple of newlyweds doubled into a reception for two. The revellers, drunk on Tokoi, made a number of mock and toasts to the bear at the head of the table.